The stars of animation are shining. It's time to stay tuned. And now, here's your host, Bill Machi.
Good evening, everybody. Welcome once again to Stay Tuned Live. This is the season finale of Season 1. Of course, Stay Tuned Live is the animation-themed talk show presented exclusively on Streaming the Magic right here on Facebook. As always, I'm Phil Machi, an animator, podcaster, and former Disney cast member, and it has been my absolute pleasure being your host these past 14 weeks. If you're watching me for the first time and you're new to Stay Tuned Live, hi there. I'm so glad you guys are here, and I'm inviting you to get involved tonight. Hit that like button, share this show with friends, put your questions and comments right into the live chat, and maybe your own words will make it up on screen. For those of you longtime fans of this show, you may be wondering, when will it return? Well, there's no decision just yet, but you can keep in the know by simply liking the Stay Tuned page here on Facebook. I have big plans for this series, and I want you guys to be there with me along the way. Also, if that's not enough for you and you simply must have more of me live streaming into your homes, you are invited tomorrow night to an all-new live stream show hosted by yours truly. It's called Artist Conversations, and it features fellow artist and close personal friend Mario Mora. We're going to take a closer look at the lives of working artists and analyze what it means to pursue a professional creative life. Our guest tomorrow night is bronze sculptor John Maizano, so tune in tomorrow at 8 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Central. You can watch for free from the official Stay Tuned page right here on Facebook. That's facebook.com/Stay Tuned Show. There you go, right there. Alrighty, there's that for you. Okay, so my guest tonight is something of a Renaissance man, a musician, comedian, visual artist, and so much more. He is, of course, loved and appreciated fondly as the voices of both Roger Rabbit and Benny the Cab in one of my all-time favorite films, Who Framed Roger Rabbit? Please welcome the one, the only, Charles Fleischer.
Hey, Phil, how you doing, man? You said this is gonna be the last show of the first season, whereas I was told that this is gonna be the first show of the second season. So,
Wherever
but
something,
I can adjust because it's just a matter of increments. And
yes,
since you are naming credits, and I did hear you name credits, you neglected to say Psycho and Greasy, two of the Weasels.
I,
I
I,
know you did that to
I did
allow
it on purpose.
me to
I did it on-
become, in a way, like you're a subservient master of dodecahedron
oh, I love it.
situations.
No, I simply did that just to give you an opportunity to bring it up in conversation. That was my thought
Then
process.
you got my note. Exactly. And I
Right.
appreciate that you changed the spelling of your name as well.
Yes, yeah. It used to be spelled with an S and a Q, and I had to completely rework it for tonight's show. So thank you for
Yeah, Essanon, Bianon, Monoron, Kanaton.
that. Right. Yes. And every ending has a beginning, and every beginning has an ending. So you're right. Maybe this is the beginning of season 2, for all I know. Who's to say it
Beginning
is?
of the end is the end of the beginning. That's one of my own worlds.
Exactly, exactly. So before we get to any cartoons and such, Charles, I want to discuss your beautiful and fascinating visual art that I've just recently discovered about you.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's really fascinating stuff. It's very mathematical.
I
Um,
am indeed a mathematical man. I
yeah,
have papers I've written about math and theories I've done, and that is all true. And I love mathematics. And since you brought this up in such a deft fashion, all of the discoveries I made in my mathematical explorations are based on visual. I take data and turn it into something visual, and then I examine it and look for patterns.
okay,
And
that's how you're creating here. Okay, so you find
no,
something.
I'm not saying that's like creating it, but
Cool.
like for instance, Moleads, that was about seeing patterns and graphic representations, and then my research into gamma ray bursts, that was in many ways I prepare for that by studying Moleads and examining angles created by linking subsequent gamma ray bursts. This is the old institution gamma ray burst, the largest display of energy in the universe, brighter than any known concept, and they are suspected to be random, whereas I have found a mathematical proof that they are not random.
Ooh, they're
That's
not
like I'm saying. That's some heavy shit.
bad.
Oh,
It
by
is.
the way, I was about to say, but then I held back. But I know it's the internet and there are boundaries are not there. But I do respect any boundaries you may have. Like you may have a large kid audience. So what are the parameters on language?
That you figured it out right there. I try to keep things available to everybody and not to
So I
leave any.
won't say any word that I wouldn't say to a 5-year old. You can tell them anything.
That's
All right,
good.
I get the premise. So you wouldn't say to a class of children taught by a nun.
That's true. Although there's some things I probably wouldn't want to say to them.
A nun or Aeneas Nin
Ooh,
or Henry Miller or many of the topics of Capricorn and Cancer and
yeah.
other things that he
Well,
wrote about.
let's go back to that visual artist. How are you making that? Are you doing it? Are you drawing things out? Are you creating it in a computer program? What do you do to create your work?
Combination of all. My most recent posts were ink drawings that I did from a sketchbook. I've worked in a program called Painter, which is
Yep.
kind of like Photoshop, but I got into Painter before that. I've worked in a program called Mandelbulb 3D, which is
Oh,
pretty deep.
yeah.
But yeah, it's I use Snapseed as a tweaker a lot to bring up luminosity and things. Um, Watercolors, and I create something in one medium and then I'll switch it over to another, and then I may like 3 years later I may bring that into another, and just like it just keeps evolving. It's
It's
kind
like
of like life itself.
yes, it's an exquisite corpse, as it were.
Oh, lovely. The exquisite corpse. A page folded with
Uh
another
huh.
drawing underneath it.
Uh huh.
What
Yep.
an exquisite reference. But I know. Send him some schnee.
Ooh.
Rather schnee. And then send him a pound of gorge.
Oh, I haven't had any gorsh today.
This is from New Gorge.
Okay, very
It's
good.
delightful and almost mystical.
It-
But yeah, Exquisite Corpse. That's
it-
not. I would say a small percentage of people are aware of that.
yeah, it's something we did in, I think, art school, but I never forgot it because it was such a cool way to interact with people, and it didn't bring ego into it because you were just trying to do your part, and then it became one beautiful tapestry of everybody's part.
It's kind of like visual improv in a way.
It is.
You
It's
know, it's
And you mentioned moleads, which is, I honestly, you introduced me to that concept, and I want to throw this out there for those who don't know what moleads are. I'm sure Charles will say more than I could ever say on it. But what is interesting to me is I grew up looking for patterns in tiles on the ceilings and just all kinds of stuff, swirls on the tree bark or whatever. And I think it's fascinating that you're into all these different patterns and things.
most certainly, yeah. Moleads. I began researching that, geez, many years ago, and it started when I got a calculator and started playing around with the calculator and dividing 1 divided by 3, and that divided by 3, and then that divided by 3 was 0.037037. I said, what is that? That's weird. And then I started dividing things by 37, and that created these repeating 3-digit numbers. Years later, I discovered these symmetrical systems called what I call moleads. It's my own name. And all prime numbers generate a symmetrical molead system. But the number 37 is key because that generates a system that's just based on 3 repeating digits.
And I'm glad you mentioned 37 because, Charles, in preparation for tonight, I went back and rewatched Roger Rabbit, and I noticed something.
Benny the Cab.
You tricky guy. Well, there's 2 places. Benny the Cab is one of them. He says, I've been a cab for 37 years. And I'm
Correct.
like, I'll bet Charles was having a good laugh when he said that. And the other one, this one's a little harder. I needed to use subtitles to find it. But in the very beginning of the film, when they're showing the intro cartoon with Roger and Baby Herman,
right?
Roger's talking about how many cousins removed he is from people, and he says your 27th cousin who was 37 times removed, and I'm like, Charles, you sneaky guy.
You got it, man. That's 27 moleads. 1 divided by 37 equals 0.027. 1 divided by 27 equals 0.037. It's a reciprocal thing. And I did moleads in my my second TED Talk.
Okay.
Which is online.
Okay.
And a mathematician in Austria saw it, and I began communicating with him, and he developed these applications, for lack of a better word, or to shorten it to an app, that generated molead systems for higher prime numbers, because everything I've done prior to that was just, by hand, like a calculator and making charts on in Painter and examining them. And that was really important in allowing me to see the higher levels of what this might mean as far as in the pursuit of science and physics and things of that nature.
So was that you ad-libbing, by the way, those lines? Were those something that you worked in?
Well, I wouldn't say ad-libbing. It was me, throwing a little bit of my specially prepared neutralino into the brunch.
But it makes it so much more personal because it makes you very much those characters even more on a level that people don't even think to look into.
Well, that happened at another time. One of my favorite scenes in that movie, since you brought it up, is when Roger's out in an alley and he's kind of tearful. He's talking about Jessica, Jessica. And my youngest daughter is named Jessica. So the name Jessica had an emotional center within me that created a response that produced something that was deeper and more sincere. Had her name just been Becky. By the way, sincere, I know you like word origins too.
I do.
Sincere?
I don't know the origin.
Okay. Sans serre, which means without wax. So in ancient times, if you... let's say this was a piece of pottery and it broke, I would repair it with wax. and then sell it. But if I were to sell you one that had never been broken, it was without wax, it was sincere.
Oh, because it was the purest form of it was the original form
Well,
of.
yeah, without wax. You know what I'm saying? And then that came to be,
Oh, how cool.
sincere.
That's awesome.
And then that's why one reason I have no problem making up words is because essentially all words are made up.
So you made up moleeds. That's your word.
Yeah, I made it up before I even knew what they were. And then I was talking to a rabbi, and in Hebrew, there's a word molid, which means, among other things, to cause to be born. And the numerical value, mem lamed daleth, for you Hebrew scholars in the crowd, gamatria ha manokolo, adds to 74, which is 2 times 37. So there was an intrinsic relationship was vibrating on many levels within my house of Chakra Khan.
How awesome is that?
It's way awesome, dude.
Way awesome. Something I was wondering, we learn in the movie that Roger's a big fan of maybe even he compares himself to Goofy. But I was wondering, for you, what cartoon character were you a big fan of growing up, and maybe which one served as an inspiration for Roger?
I would say none of them really. I mean, I was a fan of cartoons, when I was a kid, Saturday morning, going way back, Rough and Ready, and my brother and I used to take the stuffed animals we had, and we would line them all up in the living room so they could watch TV with us. I remember one Saturday morning, spent so much time like lining up the little stuffed animals that we missed the show. What the hell? What kind of people is this? I wasn't really mad, but the stuffed elephant was really.
Yeah, you don't want to make an elephant upset. It's really not a good idea.
No, not on the weekends.
Especially not on the Sabbath.
Or a holiday.
Right. Okay, so none of them directly influenced, but was there a character that you just felt like a kindred spirit to?
Not really that I can say honestly. I mean, I can make something up. Franklin Schnungens. Is more inspired by real people and what Roger. The characters there. It's the way he was written and what he looked like, and those factors determined who he is. As an actor, that's how you create your characters. With the written word and the actions that are produced by that character. And that's if Roger had been a gigantic, megahelamos,
sure,
he couldn't have a little voice. So
when you mentioned multiple voices, the weasels and everything. Were you doing those auditions all at the same time, or did they say, you know what, we need somebody else? Why don't you just do it, Charles?
No, that came after principal photography had finished.
Okay.
And I didn't really specifically audition in the sense that one might imagine. Bob Zemeckis, who had seen me do my stand-up, brought me in to help them in the auditioning process for the Eddie Valiant character. So I would be, reading Roger's lines off camera so that the people who auditioned, which included Ed Harris and James Wood, so that they could have, something to work off, and they could see how well that actor performed with an off-camera voice, essentially. And then after 3 or 4 of those, Zemeckis asked me if I wanted to go to England and make a movie, and I think I probably said yes before he finished the sentence.
I imagine so. And you mentioned he saw you in doing some stand-up comedy, which of course that's where your roots are, is comedy, which I think is one of the hardest roles in entertainment. After all these years of experience, what's different for you now in more recent years? What's different for you in stand-up as far as like what the challenge is?
Well, right now it's finding a place where an audience can sit without, right, becoming another factor in the pandemic.
Sure. But before the pandemic, what would you say, like Charles doing stand-up in the last 5 years versus Charles doing stand-up 30 years ago?
No difference.
Oh, okay.
Just an audience is an audience. It's go out there and you slam.
Yeah.
And you get a reaction, and that's it. I haven't really experienced that whole snowflake thing, and where you count the cultural appropriation, and
Right.
which to me seems kind of silly because look at architecture. Architecture essentially is cultural appropriation. Look at Washington D.C. A lot of the buildings are
Yeah.
based on Greek architecture.
The Washington
To
Monument.
me, if you take something that one culture developed and say, "Man, I like that," that's like, "Yo, bro, enjoy it." Or music.
Right.
Music is a form of cultural appropriation. I think the Beatles, as someone said, it's like a big thing of soup, and I just stirred it up and see. So it's you take something and you put it in the next pile and see what develops. It's a shared collective. We are a collective organism. We are metamorphosing, progressing in a manner that is not only judicially cosmic but empirically divine.
Oh,
Did he say that?
I feel like
I don't believe it.
I gotta do
Empirically
the
divine.
Wait a minute. What did that voice come from?
I don't know.
I like it.
When I do that voice, which going back to appropriation, John Biner used to do a character called Felix Facididi.
Okay.
That kind of squished down voice.
Kind of like Smeagol from Lord of the Rings a little bit.
Yeah, a lot of people say, "Oh, did you do that?" I said, "No, I didn't do that, but it's very similar."
Sure.
I was doing that before that, but it's all a gift to those who can hear it. If they can take it and bring it up a notch, that's the name of the game. And I think life for me, what's life all about? It's about adding as much as you can so that the next version, life 2.6, gets they have a little more. I think we're all kind of like part of this giant cosmic computer, and all the data that is fed into it is every living organism. So all of that processes in and goes into defining the next version. Like a giraffe before it's lying. If we can, I wish they need a longer neck. All right, let me make a note of that. Longer necks on the spotted beasts of the forest. Anything else? Yeah, the things are going to be porcupines. They got no defense. Give them something, will you? Got it. No problem. And these anteater things, they can't reach the ants. No problem. We'll give them a tongue. What about chameleons? Will they change color? Ooh, what about they have a tongue that whacks out and takes something? I like it. Let's do it. Still doesn't really apply to understanding male nipples, but that's another issue.
That's a whole other story. It's a whole other ball of wax.
It's not even a ball, but it's certainly something that's illogical.
It's certainly waxy.
Let's see.
So are all those folks out there who say companies treat me like a number, I don't want to be a number? Well, here we go. We're talking about how we're all numbers adding up into something beyond.
Well, you could be an imaginary number.
Oh, yes.
Which is I, which is the square root of -1. And one of the great mathematical formulas of all time, e to the I pi minus 1 equals 0. That is like that's Euler came up with that.
I've never heard that one.
E to the I pi, take away 1 equals 0. That is,
That's a true mathematical statement?
That's real time, bro. That is like pure mathematical beauty. Google that stuff. I think it's called Euler's identity.
When you're an actor and you hit something that is something that strikes a chord for years and years to come, you hear that people will say they get worried about being typecast. Was that ever a concern for you of getting typecast?
Everybody's typecast, I mean, I'm typecast as a man, a human. That limits. I can't play cells.
You can play a cell. You just got to put a cell costume on.
I was never worried about that. I'm worried about about not working, not about continually getting work. I mean, Cary Grant was pretty much always kind of similar.
Okay.
Gary Oldman is almost always something different.
Yeah.
But the name of the game for me is keep working. And now we're in a pandemic, which is so crazy considering so many aspects, but just the concept of what a virus is.
Right.
It's technically not alive because it can't reproduce by itself. It has no moving parts. There's no brain. There's no way to move around. And yet it knows how to go. It gets into your body, attaches to certain kinds of cells. And then it's like it hacks your system.
Right.
It sends out this stuff and it goes into our cells and goes into the little organelle inside the cell that injects its RNA or DNA, depending what kind of virus it is, either single strand, double strand, and just uses that to start knocking them out. I mean, that's science fiction.
It's science fact now.
Well, yeah, it's all science fact. You know?
So you know, I always wonder, because I know they shoot movies out of order. Do you remember what the first scene that you shot in Roger Rabbit was?
Well, among the first was the one where I'm in Maroon's office.
Oh,
and I smashed through the window.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And do you have any like fond memories of that first scene?
Yeah. I did it and the crew applauded.
The what now?
After I did, the crew applauded.
Oh, the crew applauded. Oh, wow. That was the first time they'd ever seen any of the stuff come together. So, yeah, they were probably taken aback by it.
I guess they were. And I wore a costume, too, which you probably already know.
No, I do know that. I do. There's
and the story, which I have probably told more times than there are micro dots on your shirt. But there are always new listeners. In England, at the studio, same studio I think where Superman was being shot. I think Willow was being shot, but somebody from Superman saw me in the commissary or something on a break, and I had the Roger Rabbit costume on with just the overalls and I had ears, and he says something like, "This Roger Rabbit movie's not going to be very good. I saw it going playing Roger. It doesn't look anything like Rabbit."
They thought the movie was actually going to be shot with you in the suit.
They thought that. Well, how would they know? They didn't know anything about it. No.
Right. Well, so who made you that suit? I've been curious about that.
Joanna Johnson, Academy Award-winning costume director, because I told them that I'd like to have a costume, and originally part of that was just out of ego, because you're on the set every day, but as an actor, it doesn't matter what you wear to get to the set. When you go, you're changing your costume.
Right.
And I didn't want to say, this American girl's been wearing the same corduroy pants for 2 weeks.
Right.
Well, I just have lots of pairs of them. And it just made sense to put it on. And at first, Hoskins, he thought I was crazy. But then later on, he thanked me because it helped him to put the voice and the image all together.
Did it help you get in that mindset more?
It didn't hurt. I mean, when I go into like a recording studio to do ADR or doing something after principal photography began, or like to do Benny the Cab or Two of the Weasels, which came later, I didn't, have a Benny the Cab suit on or anything.
I mean, that would have been very impressive.
Well, for me, it's unnecessary when there's no photography going on. But when there's other actors who are being photographed and you're in that little grouping, it just made sense to have a costume, and it worked out.
So speaking of ADR, thank you very much. Yes, for those who don't know,
Dan Rala.
It's very
anthropomorphic Slavian raccoon.
I like that one better. That's good. I like that one better. But for those who don't know, that's the process of recording audio after the fact to make sure you get a cleaner version of the audio. I always wonder about that because I imagine there's something of an energy that you imbue in the first performance. And then if you try to replicate it in ADR, was it harder to kind of recapture that energy?
Not for me. It's just that's part of what acting is. That's why you're an actor.
Okay.
Speaking of the movie The Exorcist.
Yes.
Every line was ADR'd.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Oh, gosh. Probably, I mean, maybe if the sound wasn't good enough on camera.
Something like that, yeah, it could be. Sure. Or sometimes there's like that change that when I make where it's subtle and you cut to the other character and you can't see what they're moving. And technically, then you go beep, beep, beep. And then the next beep that you would hear is where you begin.
But if you don't land it in ADR, they let you just do it again, don't they?
Well, it's like anything. If you don't land it in a movie, you do it again.
Okay.
Now that can be good or bad. When the movie Zodiac, which is
Yes.
one of my favorite films I've ever worked on.
Sure, it's more dramatic, right?
Oh yeah, more dramatic than Roger Rabbit. I don't know if it's more dramatic. It's just less cartoony.
Right. Yeah.
David Fincher is a master, as well as I've had great directors: Bob Zemeckis, David Fincher, Wes Craven, blessed in that area. So the first night I worked on that was the scene where I picked Jake Gyllenhaal up, and where I'm in the car doing my lines. And there's another one, like take 27, and I had a cigarette because I don't smoke, and so maybe it's the smoke. And then I'm thinking, oh, maybe I'm in the wrong profession. And then finally said, okay, print it. And Jake said something about like, welcome to the club. And then I found out that David Fincher likes to do lots of takes. So once I knew that, I was like, fantastic. When you go to the set to work, it's like it's a gym. Let's go. Let's find something that I never would have found or never would have known about. So
Right.
that was exciting to me.
Well, Zodiac's a very different kind of tonality. And how do you approach walking the line between drama and comedy? Because there's kind of a fine edge between creepy and over the edge funny. It can go either way.
It's the same basic principle. I'll quote the name of a book that Charles McGaw, who is the dean at the Goodman School of Drama where I went to school. And the name of the book was Acting is Believing.
Oh.
You're in it. You're there. I mean, even though you're hitting a mark and you're saying lines and you're waiting for a cue, but you are there. It's play. It's adult play. It's you're playing, but you're into it. That's like you can tell when an actor's into it. That, all those things fall away, and it draws you right in. You're into it. It doesn't matter whether it's a cartoon or a rock or a fig, or you're playing a killer or a red herring that's not a killer, but the audience thinks it is. It's you're doing it as though it's happening real for the first time.
You know how I love that, because it is. It's believing. That's absolutely. That's how you transmute the same emotions. You have to have them yourself.
Transmutation, alchemy, going back to Hermes Trismegistus. Hermes. Okay, Hermes, that was the Greek. What's the Roman equivalent of Hermes?
I don't know.
Mercury, bro.
Oh, is it really? Okay.
Yeah.
Nice.
Okay, and what about a word that's based on Hermes?
Mercurial?
Well, that would be based on Mercury. But based on Hermes would be something that's hermetically sealed.
Or hemorrhoids.
Well, I think that's based on a combination of the wand of Mercury.
Oh, that's what it is. Yeah.
Okay, I'll give you another one to redeem yourself. A word for being extremely hungry based on a bird. Name the word and the bird.
Oh, gosh.
Correct. He sent me a telepathic image. I saw this black bird, which Edgar Allan Poe was writing a poem about. What was the word again?
Raven.
Ravenous. And what's the word?
Nevermore.
Ravenous.
Oh, ravenous. Oh, I see what you're doing now. I see the word association. Okay, gotcha.
Yeah, it's like the animal becomes a word, like sluggish.
Ah, yes. And giraffe-ish.
Giraffe-ish Park.
There you go.
Rayfish Clark.
They move in herds. It's incredible.
That's what I heard. Yeah, I'm fascinated by words because words are maps.
Yes.
Approximating the topography of reality.
You ever think about how crazy it is that all these sounds we're making goes into somebody else's head and it means something instantly that they know? It's kind of mind-boggling.
You have no idea how many times I think about that. And just how magical that is.
Yeah.
And there are some writers that have proposed that language was actually some kind of a virus.
Oh, that's a cool idea.
Like a good virus in a way that, spread.
I feel that way when I hear a song I can't get out of my head on the radio.
Or when you hear another language,
Sure.
Okay? And okay seems the same in every language. Never the bosh, never no saltines.
The other one is no.
No seems to be pretty universal.
It's pretty universal.
Well, going back to previous things, which is good. I like little weaves. The word one and two in almost every language, one begins with a vowel and two begins with a consonant.
Oh, that's
cool. On, deux. Just like most words for mother starts with M, which could be because of and of course, what is it that allows for certain people to do accents? So what is that? So if you'd been born in England, you'd have an English accent. So when you're really little, you take a vocal imprint, right,
Yeah.
by the people around you, and that becomes a template that determines the way you speak.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a cutoff switch. Just like when you're little, you can swallow and breathe at the same time so that you can suckle your mother's milk. Still breathe, but you can, if you try it now, you can't swallow and breathe at the same time. So there's a cutoff mechanism there.
Those are things you should be trying at this age. I agree.
So my theory on this is that that vocal imprint, there's a normal cutoff switch, but people that they are actors or whatever, then they never experience that cutoff switch, so they can still take a vocal imprint and manifest it or make it into, if I can hear something and then act on it and flow into it. And don't matter, what part of the country. Also, you're probably fascinated too by just dialects, from where you are. You're up there, they talk like that, which is kind of like a cartoon to begin with.
Hey, I'm Italian, so I can't complain.
Man, Southern is a little like an English accent.
Yes, it is.
A lot of them came over, and they kind of blend in. It's kind of like Boris Karloff kind of.
Oh yeah.
Boris Karloff that kind of blends into Jackie Mason. It's all a blend.
But how do you explain voices like this?
Peter Lorre, it is all about the synthesis between what is real and what is not. I think it's time that we take them outside.
You ever think how interesting it is that somebody will say something to you, and for some reason, that thing they say to you, you'll remember it for years and years later on after they've probably forgotten it. Is there a thing that somebody said to you maybe in acting school or whatever, and to this day, that one thing they said just keeps coming back to you?
Don't do that again. Or that was good. Like that.
Like that.
Or pass the potatoes. At this moment, nothing's popping as far as something that is madly magical. I could go back to if I do the file, the file search, Rabbi Magnin, who was a rabbi at the Wilshire Boulevard Temple, where I belonged, and my mom and dad were out here, and we went to a service there. And I remember him saying something to the effect of, reach up to the stars and grab a little bit of them and bring them in. That, which is kind of like an Emerson quote, but a little more Jewish.
A little more Jewish.
Emerson Schwartz.
Any relation to Max and Dave Fleischer from
Only in the way that people like to make people from the same family. We're all related. You go back 30 generations.
Sure.
But there was, among the brothers, the Fleischer brothers, there was a Charles Fleischer.
I thought there might have been.
There was. And among other things, he was an inventor.
Oh, look at you. There you go.
He has pets, the claw, that amusement park thing where you go on and pick something up. That was a Charles Fleischer invention. And I have two patents myself, which you probably already know. I
did, but tell me about them. What were they all about?
The first one was a toy egg. It's kind of a cross between an egg and a slinky. Oh, and it looked like an egg, but when I discovered it I love spirals, and I've just taken a ping pong ball and unwinding it in a spiral. And when I did that, it became kind of egg-shaped. Then I did that to two of them, and I intertwined them and put them together, and I had this like bouncing egg.
Oh, neat.
And then the other thing that I invented that I have a patent on is my golden ratio device.
Wait, you patented the egg thing. What is it for? What does it do?
It's a toy.
Oh, it's a toy. So that's great. So people can still buy this toy.
People never bought the toy.
Oh.
It was never produced.
Oh, okay. So just a patent, never a production.
Yeah, never production. And follow me over here. Clark,
Okay.
where are the keys to the envelope slips? I don't believe you can't find it. Bring me another box of woe. Here we are. Well, here's the big one here. I'll show you the big one since we have the long view. This is my other patent that I have a patent on. This is my golden ratio device.
Oh my gosh, that's awesome. Oh, that's awesome.
Now, if you adjust this, like the logo's in the way, but if
Sorry
you
about the
adjust it to my height,
Yeah.
then this point here will be where my navel is.
Yes.
That's true for regular humans.
What about the ear
I
regulator?
won't put this back now. I'll just put it over here so I won't take too much of your viewers' time.
No, that's
However,
really cool.
Since you brought it up, this is a smaller one. I call it a Ziz. So that's it, and it's it measures the golden ratio.
Oh, that's so cool.
So I did it originally because I wanted to make my drawings better. And if you align it to face and put the eyes right there, then it will show you where the other points are.
Oh, that's really neat.
And then you can move it around and facilitate different aspects of it.
So that kind of leads me to another question, which is, as far as your drawings are concerned, and since there is another Charles Fleischer out there, and since you've been in cartoons technically at this point, have you thought about taking your hand to doing some cartooning?
Not in the strict sense of cartooning. I mean, I just like to create visual art.
Okay.
But another weave.
Yeah.
Things we've already spoken about.
Yeah.
Okay. The caduceus, the sign symbol for, bless you too, for the medical industry, essentially the 220 snakes, also known as the wand of Mercury. Looks surprisingly like this.
It does. That's correct.
So this is strictly a hypothesis. I have nothing to base this on. So let's just say that there were advanced beings that at one point made themselves known on Earth. Okay. And they had something like this, which was utilized in some of their machinery. And people that saw it, that saw Mercury, they described it as, two snakes intertwining. It's strictly a hypothesis, which also goes back to Thoth, the Egyptian.
It's not that crazy of a hypothesis, though.
Well, it's only I like hypotheses that can be demonstrated with proof.
Yeah, that would be theorems at that point, wouldn't it?
Well, I had some theorem the other day, and I tell you, it was a theorem that was a serum that led to delirium.
Oh, wow.
Oh, delirium, that brings our ding, 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 ding.
Oh.
Next thing, a delirium. Okay, where's the word delirium come from?
Oh, gosh. From delight?
Okay, you got it. You sent it to me again. Okay, delirium was a furrow left by a plow, right? Okay. So delirium was a furrow that was all over the place. It's delirium and delirious.
That's awesome.
Well, if you already knew it, what would be the point of me telling you?
Well, that's very true.
But what I'm enjoying most about this fascinating dialogue of logging and dieting is how that we have continued to find these weaves. Go back and pick up on something else. That makes it literary, and that's something I learned from literature. Like you read something in this chapter, and then like 8 chapters later, it comes back again, and you see it.
Absolutely, I'm with you on that, and I look for that in my own life. I look for that all the time. I love seeing how you try to figure out where something started, but then you're like, well, that's not really the start of it because there was another thing that kind of made that happen.
Or wasn't it Chekhov that said if you're going to have a gun in the story, you better use the gun? Wasn't that Chekhov that said that?
That sounds correct. Yes.
Chekhov. All right, don't check that off. Murakami. Haruki Murakami. Do you know his work at all?
I don't know his work, but I know the name.
Okay, Wind Up Bird Chronicle. 1Q84, one of my probably favorite book I've ever read. Kafka on the Shore. I think he's probably the best writer consistently on the planet today. But Gabriel Garcia Marquez, 100 Years of Solitude.
Okay. You're more well read than I am. I'm not as well read as you.
Well, you're a young man. I got socks older than you.
Well, you know, I'm no older than 85.
Well, I'm no older than my socks.
You know, I will tell you that something you're saying tonight makes me think of one of my favorite books of all time, which is Jurassic Park from Michael Crichton. And Crichton's book, he loved that all of this scientific and mathematical stuff too, because he has fractals strewn all throughout the initial Jurassic Park book. And fractals are all about like the mathematics, like inside of a shell. What's the crustacean?
The Nautilus shell.
The Nautilus shell,
which is golden ratio.
Exactly. So you might, if you haven't read Jurassic Park, you might appreciate that aspect of it.
I appreciate anything that's well researched, based on science, and proposes something that might happen, could happen, or maybe never happen. But when you allow the mind to think about it. And speaking of the mind, where is the mind physically located?
I have a brain mold that I just purchased the other day. I have one in my kitchen. It's
okay. Well, so many people would consider the mind to be the brain, which is located here, even though there is an organism that's similar to a brain located in your gut.
The Egyptians thought the mind was the heart, sort of.
Well, this is slightly different, but and this is not my thought. I got this from Holographic Universe by Michael Talbot, who suggests that the mind is not located in one specific place. In fact, it might even, go outside of the parameters of your body.
Oh.
Like, let's say you leave your house and go, oh, I forgot my keys.
Right.
You reminded yourself. The mind is kind of this like unconscious, conscious aspect of our being, because we only have, a very small percentage of our consciousness is based on what we're doing. You're like right now, you're blinking, you got your nervous system, you're dividing cells, you're like so busy and still have time to talk to me. Boy, hey, what a dynamic.
Always make time for talking to Charles. Hey, if I didn't have a thought about it, I'd be thoughtless.
If that's even possible. And then that leads us to Alan Watts, of course, and nothingness.
Oh.
Because, can there be nothing? Because if you're there to perceive it, you negate the nothingness you presume to exist.
Well, that's the Schrodinger's cat thing, isn't it?
Well, I suppose it is. I think that's more about the observer and the actual situation that's occurring. But there are many people that believe that the observer is affecting the observed.
Yes, absolutely. And incidentally, naming your cat Schrodinger would be a great name.
I'm sure that's been done.
It probably has.
Especially if you have two cats and one of them is dead.
There you go. And then if
one of them will be dead.
Oh, well, that's a little bleak.
Well, it's just a matter of time, isn't it?
True.
I mean, everything, and this once again goes back to beginning and end.
Right.
Even the universe that we are in now will one day no longer exist. So
this is true.
This universe where we are now residing, is it finite or infinite? There's no right answer because it's unknown.
Right. It's unknown.
What's your take on it?
I would say, you mean like all of existence or just this universe?
The universe that we are in.
The universe that we're in. I'm sort of on the camp that it is expanding where old parts are dying off. So in one sense it's infinite, but in other senses parts are dying, so therefore they
could not be one sense or the other.
Something
that cannot be infinite and not infinite. That is more than a Schrodinger cat.
That's true.
The parameter that limits what it is. However, you began your response with what I think is probably an answer that is part of my response. And that is, I think that this universe is finite.
Yeah.
I think infinity applies more to quantity than size. However, what's even more boggling than an infinite universe is Grab a hold of your sidebar now, Squeaky. The universe is finite, but there's an infinite number of finite universes. What did you say? He said there are an infinite number of finite universes. Ooh, that's a real mind expander.
It is. And by you telling us this, I think like you have made it a fine night.
Good one. I would say it's good for your side of the camera, but it could also be fine night. And now fine day. Fine Ted night and fine Doris day.
Oh, yes. I like Ted Knight's great. I love Ted Knight.
Knight's great. More Doris Day wasn't?
Doris Day was, of course, love Doris Day.
What a classic lady.
I want to, if you have a moment, I'd like to go to some of the live responses from people. And let me see what people are saying in the live chat. We've got a few things.
Are we live actually now? Live?
We are live, yeah. So
I love that. That's fantastic.
Amy Tamala says Charles Fleischer was the voice of the quiz in Walt Disney World Explorer on the PC back in the 90s. You were a quiz answer.
I didn't even know that.
What was the quiz question, I wonder? That's interesting.
I did do a thing for Space Mountain.
Oh, what did you do for Space Mountain?
When people were waiting in line, and I played like a rocket salesman, used rocket salesman.
Oh, how cool.
There was a video of that.
You know, those short cartoons to me are some of the most like beautiful. The Roger Rabbit cartoons. Those just the shorts, just not the movie. I love the movie, but the shorts are great. I would have loved to have seen those continue. Were those fun to do for you?
As I kind of hinted at before, working is a privilege, and it's so much fun. You know, when I get a script or I'm going onto the lot or onto wherever it's taking place, I feel privileged. I feel like, wow, I'm working. People pay me money to do something. Are you kidding me?
Love it.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. I love, I'll be the voice of a menu. I'll be the voice of a fry, not the whole plate. My manager says he's got to do all the fries. I don't know. All the fries, and I could do just one fry, One fry could break out. One fry could be, one fry today, it could be a big fry tomorrow.
And then one of them would be like, hey, Mo! And that's the curly fry.
The curly fry, and the other is Mo Lead fry. Mo Lead fry. Well done, Slabberrock.
So let's
we're
see.
live on Facebook. That's amazing. I'm on Facebook.
Oh, yeah.
We're live.
Yes. We have someone named Carrie Green saying Fievel Mouskowitz is Jewish. That's very true. Fievel Mouskowitz.
Well, all Toons are Jewish, except for Porky Pig.
Oh, right. That's correct. That's the kosher.
And he converted.
He converted. He converted. Let's see. Victor Romero says, great to see the voice of Roger Rabbit doing well.
Thank you, Victor Romero. That's a good name. Victor L. What's the L stand for, Victor? Lucky? Lamborghini?
It could be.
Lugubrious?
We got Megan Clementi Rhodes saying, this has all been so fascinating.
Wonderful. So fascinating. See, she modified fascinating. She could have said, this has been fascinating, but so fascinating. Now, what word do I get linky-dinky when people modify it?
Which word?
Unique. People say that's really unique. You don't need to modify unique. You know what I'm saying?
That's right.
It's unique. You can't get more unique than unique.
It's like trying to modify infinite.
Well, you could, but it would be less than.
Oh, okay. There you go.
Or more than.
More than, yes.
Or the square root of -1.
Oh, oh dear.
Imaginary number. Gotta love it. It's symbolized by a small I, by the way.
There's infinite numbers between 0 and 1, correct?
Well, I suppose if you just keep breaking things in half,
right,
you could get to that determination where you never actually reach 1 if you just keep dividing it in half.
Yeah, that's like Half-Life.
It's not Occam's razor, but it is another principle whereby that is demonstrated.
Ooh, I like Occam's razor. Britt jumps in and said, I imagine myself as the number 5.
Ooh, well, that's nice because 5 is the same word, the ancient word for five is the same word that we had for hand. Just
Oh,
like the word digit is still a finger and digits.
yes.
And yeah, five is a really important number. And the golden ratio can be expressed as the square root of 5 plus 1 divided by 2.
You remember that cartoon Donald in Math Magic Land?
Of course.
That's a good one.
And dodecahedrons have been on The Simpsons.
Oh, have they?
Yeah.
Oh, nice. A lot of. Have you ever
I
been on?
love dodecahedrons, by the way. It's
Oh,
just,
yeah.
oh man. I have at least 1,000 dodecahedrons in my house.
Do you play Dungeons and Dragons?
Never.
Oh, okay.
But they'll call that a D12. But I'm grateful for Dungeons and Dragons because it allowed the dice manufacturers to produce dodecahedrons, which I can then readily buy and configure into shapes that are not supposed to exist.
That
If you
shape.
look, that's a tetrahedron, and if you look in a mathematic, physics, chemistry book from the 50s, they'll say, cubes can go together to form other shapes, but dodecahedrons can't. But
Oh,
they can.
but they can.
Yes.
Why do they say they can't?
Same reason they thought you couldn't go to the moon,
Oh, yeah.
because they didn't have the perception, or they didn't get the thinker. Same reason that before Buckminster Fuller there were no geodesic domes, or which goes back to the five sacred solids: dodecahedron, icosahedron, tetrahedron, octahedron, and the cube. And that's what led me into a lot of this stuff. I saw this guy named Eric Blair, who wrote a book called Rhythms of Vision, and he was talking about the five sacred solids. And that just boom, that just struck a chord. Five sacred solids. Damn, I got to get into that. And I just started building these things, and shape and form follows function, function follows form, and that leads to this, and trying to discover new shapes. And I've discovered several new shapes, one of which was confirmed by Murray Gell-Mann, the physicist who discovered quarks.
Oh, wow.
Quarks are the constituents of protons.
And what shape did you discover?
Um,
Was it the shape of water?
no, I can get up and show you a Rambonian flag. I have several demonstrations. Let's see. But here's a slightly conflabbed. Hexagons, when grouped together, form flat objects,
Okay.
pure hexagons. So they use them for tiling.
Yes.
60-degree angle, 3 times 60, 180, right?
Stop
So no one considered hexagons forming a three-dimensional shape. But no one also considered that they would be curved, like space itself. So this, I showed this to Murray Gell-Mann, and he acknowledged that it was not known to science. And he said to me that there's probably a version that's similar to an octahedron. And then a few days later, I proved him right.
Incredible.
And these will just continue to build upon each other.
Is this going to be a shape that's recognized in some sort of scientific book at some point?
That all depends on you, mister. I'm only the speaker of the word. Those that write the word will see the clarity. Inside the dome there is more than knowledge. Apua, Yishandakoya, Niho, Bambaleka. Do not listen to the words.
Now we're getting into some Monty Python territory with me.
All territory is Monty Python territory.
Ooh, I like that.
I have a dodecahedron, stellated dodecahedron over there that was given to me by Eric Idle. I can say that proudly.
That's cool.
Way cool.
Way cool. That's spell.
Way cool, Ludi.
Well, we're gonna tie things up in a little bow here with a comment from Hannah Culpa Santos that says, "Thank you for inspiring me to become a voice actor."
Well, don't thank me until you made money at it. Because we're all voice actors.
We're all voice actors.
And when people describe me as a voice actor, my initial response is negative, because I consider myself an actor. You
Yeah.
know, and I think voice act, if a person is without sight, then all actors are voice actors, right?
Indeed. That's very
So, and my premise has always been, acting is acting. It's whether it's just your voice. In some ways, I think by just doing voice acting, it can be more demanding because if you're just on camera action, you can convey an emotion or feeling with a really subtle look. It
true.
doesn't. You don't have to say anything. It's just it can be right there. Oh man, I hope people at home could see that. I wish they had the same view I did. Whoa, Phil Cam is kicking it out the door.
That's what happens when you use a 39-inch monitor.
Hey, no bragging, pal. No bragging. 39-inch now, but wait till the lights go off.
Oh,
But yeah, so with a voice acting, as they sometimes say, it might require another aspect to providing an energy or some kind of inertia to. But I'm happy if I can inspire anybody to do anything as long as it's beneficial and don't hurt people. I'm not into hurting people.
I like that.
That's negative, man. I spared Carmen Gia.
What?
I was doing a play on the word karma, extrapolating into the Carmen Gia, which was a model of Volkswagen.
Oh, okay. I thought we were talking about a karma chameleon for a second.
That would be a Boy Georgish.
Because those come and go,
Well, doesn't everything?
Yes.
Some people go and come.
That's a personal problem. But
I'm not going to talk there. We're keeping it clean. But when the double entendre comes in, you can wipe it away.
Keeping it clean.
That's not a Windex, but somebody's got the idea. Hi!
Charles, this has been fascinating, and it's been as fun as I hoped it would be.
Hey, let me just say, of all the people that have done these things, no one can touch you.
Oh.
Prepared and just with it and flowing and knowing and glowing and really much props. This has been one of the. You saying this was an hour?
It was.
We could have flown to San Francisco.
I know.
But I'm still here and I prefer it. And I'm not saying anything bad about San Francisco. It's just I like being home. My house is big enough, I could just walk up to San Francisco, just be in the other wing.
At the very least, that room is big enough. As far as we know, that's your entire house. As far as we can see, that's it. That's the room.
As far as this isn't even my house.
Oh, it's a construct.
This is all just it's a a CGI background.
It could
my
be
real home is much nicer, but if I were to show that, the jealousy.
Hey, before we go, I just want to say when you guys were doing the film back then, you guys were pioneering something that now is done all the time, where people are acting to nothing next to them. Did you have an inkling you were pioneering back then? Did you have any clue?
Yes, in many ways, but that has been done, but not to the extent, because what Bob Zemeckis and Richard Williams brought into it was the moving camera.
Yes.
And shadowing. That had never been done before, and that now is part of the directive for all CGI animation.
Correct.
Just that the moving camera and having the shadows and reflections and all those things play into it that adds to the believability of it. But essentially, it's all about the story. You could do it with with a pencil or stop motion on a piece of pasta. And if the story is really like, oh man, that angel here told me up at the end. Can't believe it.
That was some moving fusilli.
If fusilli got me all teally. But it's about the story. The story is, what's the story about? And I would say I learned that from Bob Zemeckis.
I mean, if you're going to learn something, learn it from someone like Bob Zemeckis.
Praise to Bob Zemeckis, man.
Well, thank you for being here and for the kind words and for the insanely wonderful wordplay and numerical banter. It's all been appreciated.
Numerical banter. I've waited all day to hear those words. Why, numerical banter. I once had a banter that worked for a canter, but he couldn't say, so he had to get a hanter. And then he came back and said, numerical what? And I said, banter, you idiot, banter.
I can't do any better than that. Charles Fleischer, been a pleasure. Thank you, sir.
Lindo, thank you very much. Please tune in to watch the next episode of Phil Goes to Town.
Bill Goes to Town. That's all right. We'll do it. We'll make it happen. Talk to you.
Mr. Hoppity Goes to Town.
Oh, yes.
That was a movie done by the Fleischer brothers, which unfortunately came out, I think, the day that World War II started.
Oh, that is unfortunate timing.
Yeah, it did kind of like put a dent in their studio effort. But
Yeah.
they invented rotoscoping.
Oh, okay. I didn't know they invented rotoscoping.
I know, but now you do.
That's really cool.
There's all kinds of interesting patent stories about that. We'll save that for season 2.
Oh, we will. Well, maybe I'll see you in season 2, sir.
You'll see me anywhere you look. Fair or here or beyond the sphere. Padula.
I like that. I almost wanted to like shoot little lasers at that. That was like Space Invaders. That was. Bye, Charles.
Thank you, my brother.
Thank you. All right, guys, that is going to do it for tonight's show. I don't know how else we could have capped off this season any better. I'd like to once again thank my special guest, Charles Fleischer, for taking his time to discuss really one of the most, I would say, important films in film history, animation or otherwise, for a number of reasons. But of course, for imparting with us all the wonderful other facets of his life that make Charles Charles, which I think is really important to know. So thank you to him for that. Thank you guys so much, all of my Stay Tuned patrons. You guys have been wonderful supporting me month after month, and it genuinely encourages me to keep going with this show as an independent creator. And as Stay Tuned continues to grow, I'd love to have all of you guys on the ground floor with me. So if you enjoyed any of these free weekly shows, please go ahead and visit patreon.com/Filmaki. And when you do that, there's a little link right there. Let me put that on the screen right here. There you go. Patreon. Where is it? I had it somewhere over here, but yeah, well, it's not there now, but patreon.com. Oh, there it is. It's right there. It's floating right there. Go ahead and visit that site, and you can check out all the different tiers and get some rewards for yourself and be part of this awesome show that continues to grow. It's been amazing. If you like more of this kind of thing, there are 2 seasons of the podcast that exist out there. Just check your favorite podcast app for Stay Tuned or my first and last name, and you'll find it. And while you're at it, go ahead and check out filmaki.com. Make sure to say hi to me on social media. And if you want to interact with other like-minded people just like yourselves, go ahead and join the amazing Stay Tuned community right here on Facebook. There's free daily news about anything happening in the world animation, and you can talk with other folks just like yourselves. So go ahead and get involved now at facebook.com/groups/Stay Tuners. I've been Phil Machi. You've been a wonderful audience. And until next season or next show, whenever that may be, keep those eyeballs peeled, those ears open, and be sure to stay tuned.